Okay. Hi, I'm waiting for you. I apologize for my inconsistency. I just, these flu symptoms just keep on coming back. I don't know. I mean, I'm calling it flu. I have no idea what it is, but I apologize. Yirtzeh Hashem, we should have good health and siyata d'shmaya. We're in Tzidkas Hatzadik, Ois Chav Gimel, and let me briefly remind you that Rabbi Tzaddik spends over 10 osios explaining one Gemara in Brachos, Tav Gimel and Beis, apparently very important to his foundational to Rabbi Tzaddik's thinking, which I understand, I sort of grasp it. And the Gemara refers to the fact that in Shamayim, although we are oblivious to what goes on in Shamayim, we're pretty oblivious to even what goes on here on earth, But what goes on in Shamayim is further afield. And there in Shamayim, the Gemara reports, Shloisha Mishmaris Have Alayla, that the night is divided up in Shamayim into 3 parts. And I'll call Mishmar o Mishmar. In other words, you'll take from Shkias Achama until Chatzos, part 1, from Chatzos till another 4 hours, part 2, or something like that. So divide up in 3 hours. We've made the cheshbon many times, different ways to think about it. But Chatzos is the middle of the middle. The Gemara says, Emtza de Emtziusa. So that would be 1.5 Mishmaros in, yeah? Chatzos, correct? 1.5 Mishmaros in. Something's going on in Shamayim. We aren't clear what's going on in Shamayim, but what we do know, says Reb Tzaddik, is that whatever anything is going on in Shamayim, something goes on here on earth, which may seem insignificant if you don't know about this, but something is happening. It's activating something on earth. So says the Gemara, with Reb Tzaddik's explanation. And when the first Mishmar goes by, HaKadosh Baruch Hu shoyeg ka'ari, Kachamar rather, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives out a roar like a lion, but in the earth, Chamor noye, the donkey starts to bray. Thank you. Who neighs? Horses neigh, donkeys bray. Thank you. The second Mishmar, Klavim Tzoakim. Just remember, at every time the Gemara says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is shoyeg kari. There's only one animal involved here, which is the ari. But in the earth, it manifests itself in Chamor Noyer, Klavim Tzoyakim, and the third Mishmar, Tinek Yonek Mishada Imai. This is the time when the baby gets up. Not a donkey, not a dog, but the baby, Lahavdil. Isha B'Saper Simbala. So, morning has broken. And life begins, if you will. The baby starts to eat. The communication between the husband and wife begins. The world goes on in a very beautiful and peaceful way. What I want to, we're in the middle here of this Ois Chav Gimel. And I want to talk mostly about 2 things. One about dogs barking, understanding dogs. And number 2, I want to talk about the Mashiach and the Geula. We see by the Geulas Mitzrayim, by Makas B'chayres, the dogs were very involved in their uninvolvement. L'yachratz kelav l'shoynai. Dogs didn't bark. And they get schar, la kelav tashlich noisai, that if you have, it's the best thing. Like if you have a nevela, so it says you can give that to the ger, or meaning a non-Jewish ger, or to a guy. But umtza, if you have Eber Minachai, so that's a much higher quality thing. So la kelav tashlich noisai, that you give to the dog. And the dog, that's schar, because he didn't bark when he came out of Mitzrayim. But you see that dogs were part and parcel to the Gula. So we have these three things, the Chamor, the Kelev, and the Tinoik. So let's look at inside, if you have the place, in the middle of Chaf Gimel. U'sha'aga Rishayna, the first Sha'aga, the first roar of Hashem, Shehu b'mishmar Rishayn, which is it in the Mishmar Rishayn. The Gemara is unclear, has a shaila whether it's talking about the beginning of the Mishmar, the end of the Mishmar, which is why I'm avoiding that sentence. But whatever it is, Shehu b'mishmar Rishayn, in the first Mishmar, Hashem is roaring, and the donkeys are braying. What's the pshat? Says Rabbi Tzaddik to Golos kol kach b'toykef, because Golos is so strong, ad shnikar gam b'chamor, that even the chamor is reacting to it. Shehu bria pchusa b'yoser, and that's the lowliest. Its name is Chumrius, Chomer. That's the most gashmiest of all the animals. K'mashidarshu im hadoime l'chamor. Am hadoime l'chamor, thank you. U'kamoi she'amru b'vavakama karya chamra. So let's just read this carefully for a moment, because what Reb Tzaddik is telling us, which he told us all along, that we're talking about Golos. When we're talking about Lila, we're talking about Golos, like we don't miss the point. So the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we don't know what Hashem's busy with in the Shemayim, but what we do know is that it has to do with Golos. The Lila, night, is Golos. Boker, or that's Geula. So, what is Hashem busy with at night? What's he busy with in the Golos? Making the Geula. And this comes in stages, and there's simonim that are here. I just want to repeat the chiddush I just said. It's not that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this is a clear theme throughout. It's not that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is busy at night giving Yisurim to people and creating pogroms and holocausts and all kinds of inyanim of Golos. This is that is the Metzias of night. That's Lila. That's the Metzias of a lack of Hashras Hashchina and lack of Or, lack of Geula. But at the same time, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shoyeg Kari, right? I'm the king. Ani Melech, Malkan. I'm the Melech. He's Shoyeg Kari. And even in if I'm understanding it correctly, even in the deepest darkness of the Golos, the Bria is shaking from the movements of HaKadosh Baruch Hu towards Geula. And the darkest part, or the Cheshkas, the Tokef, as he calls it, Tokef HaGolos, is felt in the Chamor. I want to explain this more in a moment, but I just want to get the concept here. Ubashniya, the second Mishmar, Rak baklovim she'ein pchusim kolkach. It's not felt as strongly. You have to be spiritually sensitive. A dog, as opposed to a donkey, is spiritually sensitive as compared to a donkey. A dog is complete chomer. I'm sorry, a chamor is complete chomer. Well, you don't hear people say that a donkey is a man's best friend. No. We see other things about donkeys.
It's also maybe the Gula.
It's also maybe the Gula. Sheikh comes on a chamor. Just want to point out, because you said that, it's interesting because we spoke about the fact that it's not Reb Tzaddik's me, but the Kalavim, the dogs were very involved in Makas B'charis and Yitzias Mitzrayim by not barking. Okay. You have to understand. But Chazal also say that the donkeys were involved, and they came willingly to carry all the merchandise, the Rechush Gadol, that Klal Yisrael took from the Mitzrayim. The donkeys lined up, and they were with us carrying this stuff throughout the throughout the Midbar, they were carrying the Mishkan on their back. Zav, Kesef, Smolos. And because of that, Chazal say that the donkeys Zoichet to Peter Chamor. So it's very interesting that the donkeys were involved in Yetzias Mitzrayim before the Klavim, and the Klavim were involved in Yetzias Mitzrayim. And here we have the Laila. The Laila is involved in Yetzias Mitzrayim. It was darkness, it was Avdus, but Hashem was the Betapel of the Gula. So he was Osek in the Gula. What it means to say that he was Osek in the Gula, that he was Osek in getting us out of Gullus. So B'shniya, Rak B'klavim she'ein pchusim kolkach. Klavim are not so lowly. She'esh b'tzad echad de kedusha. There's part of a dog which is holy. Familiar with this? We say it in Tanakh and even in Smiras. Hani kalbin de chatzif. And it's if you learn Kabbalah, if you read the words of Kabbalah, you see a lot of dogs, and dogs are always associated with chatzifin. They're chutzpadik. It's a very important. Dog has chutzpah. Pashat pshat, a dog having chutzpah is that when you walk down the street and you see a bird, the bird flies away. The cat runs away. The dog comes and barks in your face. Not afraid. It's a chutzpah. Why? I'm a person. Get it? You're a dog. The dog comes straight over to you. So that's the kalbin de chatzifin. The kalbin de chatzifin, let's look at it deeply. Yesh b'tzad echad de kedusha. It's part of that which is holy. Sha'amru. Klavim misachakim. Klavim boichim. Mar says above Kaba that Malach HaMavis Bala'ir, when Malach HaMavis comes into the city, somebody's going to die. Klavim tzayakim. The dogs are sensitive to the presence of the Malach HaMavis, and they start to bark. Eliyahu Bala'ir, Klavim Mesachakim. One of their tzayakim, one of their Mesachakim. There's another lashon where Klavim boichim. I asked somebody who knows these things, like, can you tell the difference if the dog is crying or laughing? Or sure. Not a dog person. But he said to me, a gewaldige Wort. He said, I just asked this person yesterday. He said that, everybody is always so busy training the dog to understand our needs. But it's also important for the dog to train us to understand his needs. Okay, labdafka that it's an equal relationship, but I guess it's an interesting yachas that a person has with a dog. You have needs, I have needs, I'm laughing, you're laughing, I'm crying, you're crying. So a dog is kind of mirroring, according to Chazal, some kind of a big spiritual thing that's happening. Klavim Malach HaMavis Bala'ir, Klavim Tzayakim, or Boichim. Dogs start to cry. They get it, and we don't get it. Eliyahu Bala'ir, the dogs are laughing. The dogs are happy. Eliyahu Bala'ir, we don't get anything. We don't see Malach HaMavis, and not the. I just want to point out another thing, a pella that at Yetzias Mitzrayim, the dogs had every reason to start barking. I mean, first of all, a tumult. But second of all, Malach HaMavis Bala'ir. There was a Malach HaMavis came to do Makas B'charis, Klavim Tzaikim. The Gemara says before, why are you being quiet? They were quiet. Not only that, but Eliyahu Bala'ir, the Gula was coming. So dogs bark when the Gula is coming. A different kind of a bark, if you know the difference. Dogs were quiet. So the dogs had every reason to be barking, and yet the dogs were, right? Lecharatz kelav l'shaynai. By the way, who knows Hebrew? What does charatz mean? Charatz l'shaynai. That's what he said. Yeah. What's it got to do with dogs barking? Huh? Choratz l'shaynai. It's a way of shaping your tongue. Choratz l'shaynai. Okay. That's what Rashi says. Choratz l'shaynai. It's after the lashon. It's something to do with the. There's different oisius that you say with the tongue, and different ones you say with the teeth. The oisius hashein, and oisius haloshin. So charitza is always by the lashon. Just stop. So the dogs should have been barking, and they weren't barking. And the dogs have a tzad echad de kedusha. Let's explain. The kelev b'gematria Eliyahu. Okay. We're really getting into the dog thing here. 52, yeah? Kelev b'gematria Eliyahu. Ayin perish parak shira. Look at parak shira, b'siddur, right? I'm supposed to know parak shira. B'siddur Rabbi Yavitz. That's where you would find in those days the parak shira was in the back of the Siddur HaYavitz. It wasn't like now Earth Scroll book. Kiyesh azus to kedusha. I looked it up. What does it say in the parak shira? Kelav mahu oimer. Nivracha v'nichra lifnei Hashem alikav. Nishtachava v'nichra lifnei Hashem alikav. That the dog bows down lifnei Hashem alikav, in front of Hashem. Echan matzinu. Like, why does it say that in Parak Shira? You have an idea about this?
Wasn't the Kodesh Baruch Hu also there the night of Yitzias Mitzrayim?
Okay. Yeah.
So they recognize that presence, and that's what they do.
Beyond the Malach HaMavet. It's good. So, had every reason to bark, but Hashem was there. Ani v'loi malach, ani v'loi shliach.
Doesn't it Pasuk say that Hashem says, I'm going to do this and not anyone else, not any other?
We know the Malach HaMavet killed the Mitzrayim.
I thought that was Hashem.
But it wasn't Hashem who did it.
The actual, but there was a Malach HaMavet here. That's why we had to put dam on the, even Shenitin Rishus Malach HaMavet, Lahashchis, the Gula. Avarti Baretz Mitzrayim B'Laylahu, Ani V'Loi Malach. The Gula. Malach HaMavet is Malach HaMavet. I'm guessing. That's all like I know. So let's explain something here. Try to put together before we lose our time. Kelev ze Eliyahu. That's a pella. In the Zohar it says Kelev Kilev. Kilev. Gematria Eliyahu. Okay, like some funny Hasidic Shavart, right? It's all over Chazal. Kelev ze Eliyahu. So I'll tell you the pshat. This is the ikar of what we're saying over here. If you read about Eliyahu Navi, who is earlier manifested that type of character in Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen, you see Chutzpah. You see Chutzpah. Definition of Chutzpah is to go against the tide. Everybody's wearing black, you're wearing red. Everybody's walking this way, you're walking that way. You're driving on a one-way street the wrong way, and you don't care.
That matter says Abraham. That matter says Abraham.
Yeah. Chutzpah. Chutzpah. So chutzpah is like this. So chutzpah can be unbelievably holy. But Hayotzar Amagefa, Pinchas, Eliyahu, and chutzpah could be our downfall. You know, the Mishnah Berurah says, read the Mishnah Berurah, Chiluk Aleph. Thank you very much, Gil. Always knows exactly where the svarim are. Mr. Bruce says here. That you should. Where the Ramah says that you shouldn't be mispayesh mipnei hamaligim, that when you're doing the avodas Hashem, you can't let yourself be concerned between people that are making fun of you. Hamaligim Allah. Im ho'adam beinani, says the Mishnah Berurah, I made bim kaim gedolim. Don't be, and you're amongst people that are bigger. Lo yispayesh mehem. Lilmoid, lasei samitzvah. Don't say, okay, I don't belong in this room. These are all chashuva people. Learn from them. Have a little chutzpah. Achim efshel lasei samitzvah shaloi bifneim tov yaser miu. Says the Mishnah Berurah. Don't argue with people. Even though you're doing you're wearing your tefillin barabim or whatever, don't argue with people. Because midas ha'azus chutzpah is a very bad midah. You should never use it. Even if you're worshiping Hashem, it's too. Because then before you know it, you're going to develop a personality of a chutzpahniak. And you're going to use it even when you're not being avodas Hashem. You're going to be a mechutzaf. You're a mechutzaf, you'll rob a bank. If you're a mechutzaf, you'll go against the law. There's an interesting Mishnah Berurah here, which he's quoting from the Beis Yosef, actually. Interesting Mishnah Berurah that every midah has a good part and a bad part. Chutzpah is very strong. So, of course, the Ramah is telling you, have chutzpah. Don't worry about what people are saying about you. Do the right thing. Have integrity. Do mitzvahs. So the Mishnah Berurah is advising us, take it easy with the chutzpah, because before you know, you're going to use chutzpah for bad things. But is chutzpah a good thing or not a good thing? It could be a very good thing. We have a problem. You have to be b'madrega to use chutzpah correctly.
He's saying do it, but don't argue with them.
Right. It's a shtickle chutzpah.
Quietly, but don't argue.
So it's almost like an inner chutzpah. But it's like an inner chutzpah.
But to take care of showing you chutzpah, that's why we always want to be Hashem.
To live here, you need chutzpah.
Or to not notice it. Or to not notice it.
So the thing is like this. So Eliyahu, Pinchas, and that line of midos saved Bnei Yisrael with their chutzpah. The time of Pinchas, Ben Elazar, the whole Klal Yisrael was assimilating and becoming intermarrying and with nice Moav, nice Midian, and playing around with Avodah Zarah. And came Pinchas, Pinchas Ben Elazar Ben Aaron HaKohen. He came and he broke through, right? He was going the wrong way, or the only one who's going the right way on a superhighway. It's a chutzpah. Eliyahu Navi, Nevi Abal, etc. at chutzpah. So here, those are the examples of chutzpah used well. But chutzpah is such a delicate midah that if you see chutzpah in your kids, we get upset with our kids, which is correct. Which is correct. More upset that they do a little chutzpah, kind of a chutzpah. On the other hand, chutzpahs can be, what's going to make them great. So hani kalben de chatzifin, a kelev is a very interesting example. It's a Kabbalistic example of they have hani. The Navi already said that kalben have azus, azin de kalben. There's azus. We say al chetchach atanu l'fanecha ba'azus metzach with chutzpah, but a kelev has chutzpah, and that kelev can use it for something very, very good, or it could be very, very bad. It could be a kelev ra. I just want to say it's the same thing. Kelev is kalev. Because the lave is exactly the same thing, the lave. Because on the one hand we have like the lave can bring one to avodah zarah and to znus. That's the lave. If you follow your lave. On the other hand, the lave can Rahman aliba boy. Without a lave, so you can't daven, you can't learn, you can't paskin a shiloh, you can't do anything without a lave. So the lave is like a delicate instrument. Kilev. It's like chutzpah. It can go this way, it could go that way. It's a very strong midah.
Make an interesting point that one of the avodah zarah of the Egyptians was a human with a dog's head.
Yeah.
That was one of their famous avodah zarahs. Interesting. Like they took the dog to the head of the human body.
So it's also interesting, Bichlal, how dogs were always part of society that way, and avodah zarah. So
Eliyahu himself is Nichshel, Rabbi the king. The person.
speak. Huh?
Eliyahu is Keneged the Melech. He was recalling him, and that was his.
Also, Keneged Hashem. Hashem sending him on a shlichus, and Eliyahu saying, "I don't want to die. Just kill me. Kill me now." This is. I just want this to resonate with everybody that chutzpah is the downfall of a Jew, and without chutzpah, we would not be here today. Okay, that's what we're talking about. So what's the chutzpah there? Chutzpah means that here's every reason that a dog should bark. It's in your bria to bark. It's in your nature to bark, and they were quiet. So, ishtachava nichra, this is Kelev Ma'omer, nichra lifnei Hashem oisehu. I'm going to, a kriya is when you're going completely keneged your teva. So to take something like a lave or like chutzpah and completely turn it around. For a kelev not to bark is completely against his nature.
Dogs lower than heads. Higher.
So layechratz kelev l'shaynai. And the schar is l'kelev tashlichun oisei. So you want to know something interesting? What does the generation look like right before Mashiach comes? Pnei hador, pnei hakelev. Which doesn't sound very positive. And there's all kinds of drushes about it, right? Like, what do we like? We all know. The chutzpah, and it's a time of huge chutzpah. We see those two things as negative things, and we see them as separate things. I'd like to offer that it's really the same thing. There's a lot of chutzpah, and there's a lot of dogliness in Klal Yisrael. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. Without chutzpah, there would not be a state of Israel. Just to think, I don't mean politically. I just mean look at the way Hashem created the world. That a bunch of emaciated Holocaust survivors come here and take on 1,000 times their population, 1,000 times their ammunition. Chutzpah. It's a huge, and that was a case of the Azan de Kedusha, the Kalben de Chatzifin. That was the Kalben de Chatzifin that we're able to have, the Matis Yohu Bana, the whole Hanukkah story. It's the story of Kalben de Chatzifin. It's not always the right thing. But when it's the right thing, it's the right thing. So let's go back, yeah.
Is Mazos different than any other media that it can be totally used positively?
Every media can be used positively and negatively. Every single one, but chutzpah is worse. Chutzpah can be used more positively and more negatively. That's what the Mishnah Berurah says.
It's just a strong one.
Very strong. Chutzpah can really take you on a bad way, but chutzpah can also break through walls and break through...
Different than anger?
Anger is less.
Yeah.
Rambam cites Kas as the north.
I know, but it's clear to me from the...
What's the Adam Min Ha'olam?
So who says that's the worst thing? Chutzpah can be, a person with chutzpah can go against their community and go against their tradition and go against this. Could be a very terrible thing. What can happen with chutzpah is a terrible thing. You get more angry at your kid when he has chutzpah or when they get angry?
Also, prat chutzpah. We have a prat who's chutzpah or a klal, like all of Israel building Israel. Klal has chutzpah, but maybe not the prat. Personally.
Okay. You know, there's such a thing as road rage.
Yeah.
I'm sure nobody's familiar with it. You could even watch through, I don't have that problem, but you could even look in the window at somebody else and you could see them screaming, and they're the only ones in the car. They're screaming, they're honking, they're yelling, they're making all kinds of simon. Could be, but I saw it before there were such things. So, you know, like, I'm just saying, I don't have road rage. I have, like, parking rage. I mean, there's certain things like, you know, like, why'd you park in my spot? A chutzpah? Well, you know, why are you standing in the middle of the street? Like, don't you know there's people that have to go by? There's a certain chutzpah that really bothers us, or at least me. I think everyone has their little chutzpah level, but hey, somebody's getting angry, you know, calm down, have a drink, relax, you know. Chutzpah is like, it's such an unacceptable media, but if not for the chutzpah, and this is a lot of the character of everybody around us, you know, the chutzpah l'toiv and the chutzpah l'ra. So you see, Azus is a very strong method. So let me just, I'm saying a lot of things. I want to talk about dogs. I want to talk about Eliyahu. I want to talk about the Geula, and I want to talk about Hashem. Haroya kelev b'chamar, a good vart. Haroya kelev b'chalaim. If somebody sees a dog in their dream, does that happen? A dog in your dream. So, Yoimar, you should get up in the morning and say, says the Gemara, Lo yechratz kelev l'shaynai. That by Yetzias Mitzrayim, dogs didn't bark. See, because dreams, hakol hoy lechachar apitaron, after the Pisrayim. Dreams are how you interpret it. And dogs are how you interpret it and how they behave. And say, lo yechratz kelev l'shaynai, you could see such a thing that dogs had every reason to bark and they didn't bark. They went keneged their teva. So if they went keneged their teva, why'd they do this? There's different explanations. If you look in the Mikrois Gedolos, Hashem wanted it to be ragua, calm for everybody who's going out of Mitzrayim. Didn't want the kids to be afraid. Didn't want to make a lot of noise about it. Maybe like the Luchai Shnius was given b'chashoy. A lot of reasons, but it was supposed to be a huge tumult in Mitzrayim when the Jews were going out. It's quiet, still the dogs didn't bark. They went keneged their teva. So let's say something like this. Kadosh Baruch Hu Shemayim Sholosh Mishmaros Hevi Alayla. And you go from Kadosh Baruch Hu in the darkness creating light. And you go from Chamor Noyer, from donkeys to dogs to people. See, I think like this. Just hear me out for a moment. Rav Soloveitchik Olav Shalom once explained that when Avram Avinu went to the Akedah, so came with Yishmael, Eliezer, and with the Chamor, and he said, Shvu lachem choy, ima Chamor, Amadoim l'chamor, v'ani v'anar nelcha ad koi, v'nishtachave, v'noshuva aleichem. Wait here with the chamor. V'ani v'anar are going someplace on a much higher level. V'ani v'anar nelcha ad koi, which now Rav Soloveitchik, but the Zohar says that there's 50 sha'arim of tahara of kedusha. Much like there's Nun Shari Tumah, there's Nun Shari Tara, our Parshias. We're going to go up to 25. Kadosh Baruch Hu's meeting us there. At the 25. Ad koi. V'nishtachave. V'nashuva aleichem. and then we're going to come back. So Rav Soloveitchik explained that the first part of the Geula is the Chamor. Come with me to the mountain. The Chamor. Chamor is the ultimate in Gashmius. The Geula starts off with things being set for us on a Gashmius level. Here's fields, here's water, here's a land. There's Medina. I'm not apologizing at all. This is what I'm talking. I'm talking with my fullest heart. But I'm explaining. I don't mean this politically. I'm just saying, just have a heart and look at where we are in history. But here, the first thing is the Chamor, and the Chamor is so gashmius that people are pushing it away. What can be more secular than the Chamor? And the Chamor is making noise, Chamor Noyer. And this is the first stage of the Geula, but then there's a second stage. You set up the Gashmias, and then Avram Avinu says, Shvu lachem poi, you guys are all here, you got me to the Gashmias, you got me to the point where Va'ani va'anar nelchad koi, you wait here. Because this Gashmias can't be informing the Ruchnias what to do. And it can't even necessarily, at this point, go for the ride. There has to be, the next step is a spiritual place. And it's interesting, in Chazal, this part of the Geula is called a Bechina of Kelev. Can go this way, can go that way. Kelev. It's can make noise, it cannot make noise. There's the Kelev is a very goes this way, goes that way situation. And that's the march up this hill of Nelchad Koi. And it means whenever we do Hashtachava, what is the Hashtachava that we're doing? According to Rav Soloveitchik, I'm embellishing a lot with my apologies, but I just want to make it clear. What does it mean when we're Mishtachava and Shemona Esrei, or when we're in Mishtachava and the Beis HaMikdash, when we say Moedim Anachnu Lach? Submission. So what does submission? It means to say that I admit, Moedim Anachnu Lach. I'm taking my gaiva out of this, and I'm submitting myself to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We don't bow down to idols. We don't bow down to anything. We just bow down to Hashem. And it's interesting, that's what the Kelev says in Parak Shira. Kelev Mahu Omer.
The dogs see that actually.
They bow down. Nishtachava v'nichra lifnei Hashem alikav. Nishtachava v'nichra. This is mamish what we're, anachnu kairim u'mishtachavim. Anachnu kairim u'mishtachavim. Nishtachava v'nichra lifnei Hashem alikav. Means a complete hachna. So Avraham Avinu says, Shvu lachem poyim hachamar. Thank you for bringing me here.
He goes back to the Chamor.
Now what? Oh, I get it. Why? After we do the complete avodah of hachna, now you need malchus. You've got to bring that right back down to the world of Asiya. And then the whole thing becomes kaddish. Everybody becomes Kaddish. Everything becomes Kaddish. So there's like a 3-stage piece over here of let's get the Gashmiya straightened out. You can call it in other languages, Rav Kook language, Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben David. All kinds of languages for the sequence, but the thing is obvious. The sequence is obvious. That you have thank you for getting us here. And please guard the door. Don't go wait there at the bottom of the mountain. The Ruchnius is a building the Ruchnius of Avram and Yitzchak and going to the Maisa of the Akedah was an unbelievable step, a spiritual step. And it creates a complete hachna in the Bria. And then Nashuva Aleichem means all this has to come to Tiferes. And Tiferes means that the Ruchnius is coming right back into the Gashmius, and now the whole thing is Kadosh, equals Geula.
So we don't go back to the dog, we go back to the chamor.
I'm saying that the first step is the Chamor, Shvulachem Poyim HaChamor. The second step is Hachnav, Nishtachave, and the third step is V'nashuva Aleichem. Nashuva Aleichem, Shuva Elai, Nashuva. The third step is when the as he's going to explain, that the Tinaik is Yonek Mishad Yimoy, that's Klal Yisrael talking to the Shechina, and being Yonek Min HaShechina, and Min HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so it's a completely spiritual time. There's a spiritual time that still has to come. But the Pnei Hadar Pnei HaKelev is a piece of the Geula of Chutzpah Yaske, where Klal Yisrael, the Gemara is talking about there, where at the end of Saita, where the Gemara is, where Klal Yisrael is at a place of Chutzpah, the place of Chutzpah, the place where you need a v'nishtachava, you need a hachra, you need a hachna. Klal Yisrael is at a place where it's a place of, it's a crossroads. You're going to be a dog like this or a dog like that. Are you going to be the dog that all the Jews were scared of because they went through the Holocaust and the ghettos? Or are you going to be the dog that's the man's best friend? The dog is so interesting. It can go this way, it can go that way.
Is the dog there by the Akedah?
I don't know if there's a lave by the Akedah. That's
But
the lave, kilev.
Is there a chutzpah in that scenario?
Of course it's chutzpah. Isn't it chutzpah to do an Akedah on your son? In other words, you know what else is a chutzpah? It's a chutzpah when it's completely dark in here and somebody says, hey, it's getting light, I can see. To see or mitoich hachoshech is chutzpah. Going... It's chutzpah. It's chutzpah. It's not trying to find the balance. You're going against the grain. You're going against everybody. You know, I'm dying to tell the joke I always tell, where somebody is driving in his car on the highway, and his wife calls him and he says, "You got to be careful. I just heard on the news that there's some Michiganer driving in the car the wrong way on the highway you're on." So he says, "One Michiganer? There's hundreds of them coming against me." Okay, once a year I could tell this joke. It's Yesodistic because to think that you're right when everybody's is saying something different is about a chutzpah. So you could be a shaita or you could be a hero, or both at the same time. So this is the bechina of Klavim. This is exactly Klavim. This is the bechina of Eliyahu Hanavi. So Kelev is Gematria Eliyahu, which is the same as Pinchas because it's Kelev. And the Lev can go as Oy and the Lev can go as O. The Lev can go both ways. Yeah.
Is this why the original request of Hashem to give the power was to leave Mitzrayim for 3 days and then they were supposed to return to Mitzrayim? Was that?
V'nashuva aleichem.
Yeah.
That was because it's supposed to be the whole American power anyway, so they could survive the others.
So I'm giving everyone material to think about over Shabbos, and you can say all kinds of droshes of the Parsha and the Shovavim, but in Yetzias Mitzrayim. But I wonder to myself, where we are in history, something I wonder about all the time, because it's a time of Geula. So it's a time of Geula. There's a very, very slight difference between the Ikvus of the Mashiach and the Aschalta de Geula. Probably all the inner politics and fighting of this country has to do with this simple question. Are we in the Ikvus of the Mashiach, or are we in the Aschalta de Geula? It's a hairline. Are we Geuladik or are we not Geuladik? We talk about minhagim. If you go to the more kippah struga weddings, what to call them, which like charedim are on every different madrega. You see, when there's a wedding, when there's a chuppah, and they're calling people up for brachas, the musician is playing music, and happy music, and they're calling people up to say brachas, and it's just a very happy thing. And if you go to a more Haredi one, you go like Tisha B'Av, so we got it buried, for heaven's sake. So what's that? But the nafkamina is like this. The nafkamina is that at a chuppah, which is Yalas Yerushalayim al Rosh Simchasi, like here we're at the happiest time. We're doing some kind of a zecher l'charban, and we need to be sad at this happy time. That's the pshat in the dearth. But at the same time, if the gula, that's if it's ikfus of the Mashiach. But if it's aschalta the gula, cheer up. Sameach tesamach re'im ahuvim, and you have manifested there and in 1,000 different places a different culture of aschalta de gula or ikfus of the Mashiach. I don't know. This requires gedolei ador to say, where on this hairline are we? But we're in there somewhere. We're in there somewhere, and we go from the chamor to the kelev to bizelcha to the tinuk yonik mishadi imai, which is the gula shlema. Okay, thank you for listening.